Hash Bible verses, Book of Galatians, verse by verse exposition. From verse 8 and 9, we carry on. People are in danger of losing salvation if they are confused about how they are to be saved. It means another of the same type, a different gospel, one which seems to be a gospel, but it is not going to save people. It's something that is contrary. They were mocking Christ because they were saying he did not finish the job. They said he suffered for nothing. They said they claimed to be better than him because they could finish what he failed to finish, which was a very bad thing to say about the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Realize we are sinners and that only blood of Jesus Christ cleanses us, and we must plead for this blood. We must lean completely on the finished work of Christ, not the fact that they don't eat pork or they don't do this and that day and night, keeping of days and keeping of times and seasons. We must be sure that we are completely saved in Jesus Christ, everything, all because of Jesus, what he did. It's all done. Nothing we can add. Anytime we try to add to anything that Jesus did, we nullify what Jesus did and we stand condemned, because Christianity is all done. All other religions are do. They are seeking God. Where is God? They are looking at trying to reach God, but Christianity is God himself in heaven, reaching out to lost people who were dead in their sins and deciding on the way of saving them. Because a decision has already been made that anybody who sins will die. Judgment was given. And then God had to come down himself to come and die and take the penalty for the sins of billions of people on earth and living it, because he had given us free will. It's up to now you and me to believe that through accepting Jesus' way of salvation, you can be saved. But if you try to add anything, then you are already out of the game. You will see when we get to Galatians chapter 5, when it is in detail explained. Paul's astonishment and anger was, one, they were deserting the truth. Number two, it was happening so quickly after his last visit to them. Number three, it was happening so soon after teachers of false doctrine began their insidious work. Number four, departure was not from system of theology, but from God himself and the one who had called them by his grace. Number five, they were embracing a different gospel, one that was false. Number six, they were turning to legalism, which adds works to faith, which was a different gospel from the one that saved them. Number seven, it was an attempt to pervert the gospel of Christ. As Paul wrote, he was aware that the false teachers were at that time troubling or throwing the Galatians into confusion. Cross-reference Acts chapter 15, verse 24, Acts chapter 20, verse 29 to 30. When the gospel message is corrupted, the way of salvation is confused, and the people are in danger of being eternally lost. Verse 10, they were saying that Paul was marketing the gospel because he wanted popularity and following from Gentiles. As a result, he preached against the law. He advocated for freedom of Gentiles from the law. If he wanted favor and the popularity, he had it as a Pharisee and a rabbi. His ministry was contrary to this because he preached Christ, who was foolishness to the Greeks and a stumbling block to the Jews. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 23. They accused him of perverting his gospel, yet they were the ones perverting the gospel by encouraging circumcision to avoid persecution by Pharisees. 2. Personal. A defense of Paul's authority, chapter 1, verse 11 to chapter 2, verse 21. 1. He was independent of the apostles. chapter 1, verse 24 to 11 to 24. Paul's gospel was a revelation, verse 11 to 12. Verse 11, it says, man-made religions emphasizes human merit and works. Verse 12, Paul says his gospel was not from men, but it came through the revelation of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. His gospel came not from tradition nor instruction, but from God through the agents of Christ. B, events before Paul's conversion, verse 13 to 14. Paul was dealing with Judaizers who thought they knew the law and followed the law. Paul says he knows where they were coming from. Paul was once a Pharisee and more zealous than them all. He knew the teachings of Judaism more than them. C, events of Paul's conversion, verse 15 to 16a. A, God set him apart from birth. B, God called him by his grace. C, God through divine intervention suddenly changed Paul from fanatic zealot of Judaism into an equally zealous Christian missionary. How else could such a radical transformation from persecution to Christ? Remember, Paul was completely at ease and completely believed what he was doing was good. He persecuted out of his clear zeal for God. Philippians 3, verse 4 to 8. D, events after Paul's conversion, 16b to verse 24. A, he formed his theology not by consulting with others, but independently as he sought God's guidance, free from human influence. B, he withdrew to Arabia where God revealed him the substance of the gospel. This period of isolation fits between verse 22 and 23 of Acts chapter 9. C, Jewish Christians in Judea rejoiced in the same gospel the Judaizers sought to undermine. Verse 22 to 24. He was recognized by the apostles. Chapter 2, verse 1 to 10. 1. Although he was separated from the other apostles, there was a unity of theology and purpose among them. Verse 2. If Jerusalem leaders insisted on Mosaic observance for Gentile believers, Paul's labor among them was in vain. Paul did not doubt this his own gospel, but he feared his ministry might be hindered by the Judaizers, especially if they had support from Jerusalem. As he probably persecuted, this was not the case. As he probably suspected, this was not the case. Judaizers claimed they had support from Jerusalem leaders James and Peter. In verse 1, Paul took Titus with him to Jerusalem as a test case. The leaders of the church at Jerusalem likely urged Paul, for the sake of peace, not for the sake of gospel, to compromise by having Titus circumcised. Paul refused, for to yield would have been to accept the bondage of the law over the freedom of the gospel. We carry on next time. God bless you.